Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The Possession. This is a donation reward, and it is for Venom0027. And this title is so vague and so generic. I don't know at all what it's supposed to be about, other than, possession. Like, it's something you can't even really guess at, because it's the vaguest title you could possibly give. It's like calling an action movie The Explosion or something. It's like, this is kind of the shit you expect. Or calling a romance movie The Kiss. It's like, it's so unexplanative, if that's even a word. It just doesn't actually tell you anything. Now, I know nothing about this movie. I don't know who's in it. I don't know what it's actually about. I only know it came out in 2012 because I noticed that when I was getting the copy and everything. But otherwise, I don't really know anything about this. I've probably heard of it before. But the thing is, again, because its title is so freaking generic, I can't say if I've heard it before or not. I might have seen a trailer for all I know. But it's something that I don't know. And I don't know if I've seen a trailer for it. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen it. But honestly, I don't even know there, because it's so generic. But the fact that it is also kind of makes me truly believe I haven't seen it. Because I feel like I would remember that just for the fact that the title is so vague and doesn't tell you anything. And I've seen my fair share of horror. Both good and bad. And most often, just kind of meh. Most horror for me is very meh. It takes something to really stand out to me to actually get my praise and attention, really. Because for me, horror has to fulfill at least one thing. There has to be a certain level of scariness to it. If there's not a lot of scariness to it, then it has to at least be competently written to where it's still enjoyable, even without actually being scary in any way. If it doesn't fulfill that, then I consider it kind of a failure as a horror film. But it kind of depends on how it's written. Because I've seen plenty of horror films that aren't scary in the slightest, but are still really good. A lot of them even being horror comedy. It's like, yeah, this isn't scary, but it's funny, it's entertaining. I had a good time watching it. But then you just find those every now and again that are just like a slog to sit through, and they're just not good. And I know that I have some very controversial opinions regarding that kind of stuff, because that's kind of how I view the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think that they are hard to sit through because I don't think they're good. I think that Robert Englund does a fine job at what he has to portray. He's a good actor, I don't deny that. But at the same time, I don't like the character. I don't like the writing. I don't like the humor they try to use in it. I don't think the Nightmare on Elm Street series is good or enjoyable. And it's definitely not scary. And the only exception to this, the only one I actually ever liked, was the remake that no one else liked. The remake with Jackie Earle Haley instead of Robert Englund. And I thought that was actually really good. I thought it actually made Freddy Krueger scary. And I thought it was actually entertaining even outside of that. Because even if you want to use the excuse that, like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's horror comedy or whatnot, it's like it's still not funny. It's still not entertaining. To me, mind you. But I know, controversial opinions and all. But yeah, so I don't know what to expect going into this one. I don't really have anything to work off of either, without knowing anything about the plot or the actors or the just the overall anything really about this. But I'm very interested because when you do find a good horror movie, it can be really good and it can really impress you. Train to Busan definitely did that for me. So we're going to check this out. We're going to check this out and see what we have in store. And hopefully we'll get something more on the good side. And hopefully we'll get something that's on the great side. That would definitely be welcome. Excuse me. I just woke up recently. Not that that ever meant much for me. I yawn all the time anyway. But yeah, hopefully this ends up being something really great and really surprises me. That would be the best case scenario. In the meantime, we're going to get this started and hope for the best. And see what this movie has in store. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Or to the movie, rather. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I want to look up to see what people thought of this film, and I'm really surprised. Apparently, the film has received mixed reviews from critics. That doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is that it received positive feedback from audiences. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, why? Because this general consensus on, I guess, Rotten Tomatoes, it's like, this is one of those times where I actually agree with what they're saying and everything. It says, it may be based on a true story, but that doesn't excuse the way the possession repeatedly falls back on hoary ghost movie cliches or the unintentional laughs it provides. This movie was not good. It was so cliche, and like everything they did was a cliche. And not to mention, it was just kind of boring. It was, it was so slow. Like, for a movie that's so short, being only like an hour and a half long, it was so slow. It felt like it dragged on and on and on. Until, like, the last little bit with the hospital and the exorcism part. It's like, that's the only part that actually moved quickly. Everything else just dragged. The effects on the demon possession and everything, like when Emily was actually possessed by the demon at the end and everything, were very bland. Like, The Exorcist had better looking effects and made Reagan, I believe the girl's name in that was, look more just interesting. Even though, like, there's a lot of issues I have even with The Exorcist and all. which I don't think is that good of a movie either, which I know another unpopular horror movie opinion. But it's just like, especially with this here, it's just, I just don't feel like it was anything special. It wasn't anything new. Everything has been done before and better. And I just feel like it was falling back on so many just cliches. It played it safe, in other words. It was playing it safe by not taking any risks, not doing anything new, and just doing what everyone else has done in terms of a possession story. Like, I didn't get it, I guess you could say. I didn't get what makes this anything better than anything else. Nothing was scary. And as I said in my pre-thoughts, like, my rule is that it either has to be scary, there actually has to be some level of scary stuff to it, or it has to at least be engaging enough to make it so that not being scary isn't an issue to me. The only problem is it's also not engaging, not just because of how slow it is, but outside of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who did a good job, I just didn't find a reason to care about any of these characters. The actor performances just didn't do anything for me. None of them made me connect to the mother, either of the two girls, the boyfriend who just kind of pieced out and never was seen again, or even this rabbi. None of them left any kind of real impact on me. They felt like characters in a movie rather than, people. Again, Jeffrey Dean Morgan was the only one who actually felt like he was, like, really trying at this performance. And even with that, this was nowhere near his best performance. I mentioned stuff like Watchmen and all during the reaction. And it's like, if you want to see a great Jeffrey Dean Morgan performance, go watch that, or go watch his stuff in Supernatural. Those are great Jeffrey Dean Morgan performance. Hell, even for the fact that I never got that far in the series, I have seen clips. Go watch his stuff from The Walking Dead as Negan. Like, I've seen clips of that, even though I never got that far in the series. I only saw the first 2 seasons. Go watch his stuff as Negan, though. It's like, that stuff will impress the shit out of you. That will show you how great of an actor he is. This was just not him at his best. And I know they're very different roles, but still, he just wasn't at his best in it. He just wasn't performing to the degree we know he can perform at. But, like, it felt so, like, safe and bland, and it just didn't do anything special or new or interesting at all. Like, there were multiple points where I could see exactly what was going to happen. And there were a couple points that it's like surprised me, but only in regards to, okay, it did something slightly different than what I was expecting. Like, oh, is she going to be crawling on the wall? No, she just pops up behind her. It's ever so slightly different, but not enough to actually say, like, oh, that was creative, or oh, that was new, or that was something interesting. What a creative thing they could have done in that scene, for example, have Emily suddenly walk into the room as Emily, just completely herself and acting as if she had no idea what was going on. That would have been better. That would have been more interesting. It would have actually been more impactful. Instead, what they got is just like, oh, she rises up behind her mother, and then, like, as her mother turns around, she just monkey jumps on her. Yes, because we've never seen anything like that before. Even if it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, it was still very much just something that I feel like a lot of these afterthoughts are just me repeating the same points over and over, but that's kind of all this really gives me to talk about. Like, what else do I have to say with this film? Pretty much all of my thoughts on it are relegated to that. Because it didn't give me anything else to think about, didn't give me anything else to talk about. It disappointed me, honestly. And mind you, there are some movies that are not good, that you could even say are bad, that you can enjoy watching because it's like, oh, they're so bad they're good, or it's enjoyably bad, it's laughably bad in the best way. Like those are fun to watch, stuff like The Room or Birdemic. But this wasn't what I would say is bad. That's the problem here. This isn't good, but it's also not bad. It's basically the definition of meh. It doesn't do anything to make you really have any thoughts one way or the other. It doesn't do anything to make you care one way or the other. It's just there. It just exists. And by the end of it, it's just that it kind of makes you feel empty. It makes you feel like you just got nothing out of that experience. And some people might say that's even worse than actually actively disliking it, because at least then you have a thought, an opinion. For me, I can't say that it's worse, but I can't say that it's better. I can't say much of anything. Like I said, it leaves me feeling empty. It leaves me feeling nothing. I don't care about this movie. I don't hate it, but I don't care about it. It wasn't good. But it didn't do anything like altogether bad or offensive or horrible either. And it's just, I don't know. Like, again, I like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and he was definitely the best part of this film. He definitely was acting as if he was trying. He was definitely giving it a real performance. But even then, it was just not him at his best. I've seen him do much better. And nothing else worked for me. So, yeah. It was somewhat fun to watch. It would have been better if it wasn't so slow and monotonous to get through, but it wasn't like too upsetting to view or anything. It's not like I'm not upset that I watched it. I don't feel like I got completely gypped or got completely like, what would you call it? Like screwed out of an hour and a half. I don't feel like that. I just don't feel like it gave me anything positive either. So, yeah. This movie exists. I don't know what else to say about it. Um, it exists. This, in terms of movies I've seen this year, this might end up being like the benchmark for like the very middle of the road. Just because, again, I don't like it, but I also can't really hate it. It is like the pure definition of meh, and so I might like use it. I might have to use it literally as like the centerpiece for my rankings for movies I've seen this year. Just as like, oh, this is like legitimately the very middle. Everything before it or everything under it is like, in terms of how I rank things from worst to best. So everything under it is better, but everything above it is worse. Everything above it is bad, everything under it is good. Um, it might just work out that way. Um, but yeah, tell me in the comments below what you thought of the possession. And Venom, I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Um, I don't know if maybe you suggested this because of how milquetoast it was, but I kind of would find that hilarious if you did. um, but I do genuinely want to hear your honest thoughts on like why you suggested this and what you think of it too. Because keep in mind, I want to make it very clear here, as I do with everything I react to. Um, this is just my opinion. If you love this movie, if you think it's a fantastic horror film, I have no right to say otherwise to you. I have no right to try and make you think otherwise. I can simply state my opinion, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong. It's opinion. So you're allowed to love this. You're allowed to hate it. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel about this. And when I do these reactions, that's what I do. I just state my opinion. I just tell you what I feel about it. And with this movie, I feel nothing. So, yeah. But I do generally want to hear your thoughts and everything. Everyone who's watching this, I want to hear your thoughts. But either way, yeah. That was a thing. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.